Hello and welcome back to Pushing Technology to the Limit. Are you wondering what this whole video is about? Well, for those that have bought computers but never have repaired them, this is for your education, but also for those that are wanting to fix their computers. I've been repairing computers since 2004 and I've seen a lot of junky designs. And the worst designs that I've seen are from Dell. That's why I call this video Dell Hell. Because it gets to the point sometimes when it's really hard to fix the Dell computer. Just this week, I've bought a power supply for one of those micro systems. And I've gotten 2 power supplies so far, and none of those freaking things fit. It's amazing. Let me show you some of the computers I've got here that I'm working on. One is actually a really old computer. I've been buying these since 2004, and the older they are, the more simpler they are. And the problem that I see today is that, and even like my computer that I bought in 2006, it was fancy as far as that it was powerful. But also they put too much work into making the frickin' inside look clean. I don't care. Now, if you are going to show off your computer and take your side of your cover off, I mean, who really does that? I mean, I don't care. I mean, if you've seen the row of computers I've got, there's no room to take off the covers. You got to pull them out. Now, if you're going to look at me and say, well, he's got old computers, you know what? I don't care. You can say anything you want about old computers. But you know what? An old computer works just as good, and probably sometimes even better than a new computer. Now, if you need certain services run on different pieces of equipment, you got to have more computers. Now, I'm willing to fix up a computer and have it run like pretty much like brand new, than having to mess with buying a brand new system. So let me show you what I am talking about with this Dell Hell. And this is like, you know, for upgrades or fixing computers. It's a nightmare. It gets to be that way. And so the first one I've got, actually I got, you know, it's one actually that's actually still running that I bought in 2004. This one I'm going to show you right now is probably about 2005, maybe it's late 2004, I don't know, maybe 2006, but it's very messy inside, and that's the way it should be. So let me show you that computer now. So these are the 2 computers. Actually, I got a third one I'm working on, but these are the 2 that are on the table right now that you can actually see. The one on the left is a Dell Dimension 3000. It was a media computer back in its day. Still a good system. I gotta get it running again. I can't remember why. I think it's because the hard drive failed in it. So I need to get another hard drive. Well, that's the problem these days, is that you cannot get the IDE. Everything now is SATA. The one on the right does have SATA in it, but it's still an older machine. So if you can see inside this machine here, you can see all the wires and mess that comes with the computer. Now, they didn't spend extra money on making a fancy inside. Which, who cares? When the side panel's on, nobody's going to see the mess. And it works fine. And the hard drive's easy to get to. It has a floppy drive, has 1 DVD drive. Back then, when this machine was new, it only was accepting a 500 gigabyte hard drive, which is what I'm going to put in there again. But I finally got a part that will accept the IDE to the SATA, so I won't have to mess with the IDE hard drives anymore. Let me show you some of the other ones that I've got. Actually, the one that I was just showing you on the right hand side. So this is one of their this is a Dell XPS Dimension Gen 3, and that's XPS. And the one thing that I find kind of annoying on this computer is the fact that it's on a big hinge. I'd rather have the door. And as you can see, there's no... You gotta open a door to get to the CD drives. That's a pain. And on the right hand side, you can see the sound card. That did have a door. It broke off because the plastic got all brittle. So you have to open that door to get to your drives. Now I find that kind of a pain in the neck if you've got a row of computers like I've got down here. Now let me show you the inside of this thing. This is pretty much the same age as the other one. I just got this from somebody else. It's liquid cooled. It was top of the line back in its day. I'm going to fix it up and I'm going to use it myself. But the things that I find kind of annoying is the fact that there's all this plastic stuff. You can see right here this green plastic door. That's how you get into the hard drives. Now the other thing that's ridiculous is that you gotta have the plastic parts to put the hard drives in. Let me show you. So right here is the actual hard drives without the box on. Now this is not even necessary to have that green box on there. That's just another one of their fancy smancy, look clean nonsense. I'm just going to throw the thing out because it's a waste of space and it's a pain in the neck to get it on and off. And but you can see all these green plastic parts in there, and you have to have those mounted to your hard drive to mount them in your computer. Let me show you one of them. So right here is the 250 gigabyte hard drive, and you see these green parts on the hard drive. Let's see here. I need to get it out far enough so you can see it. There's the two plastic ends. That clicks in place, and it just doesn't have a hard metal container to mount the hard drives on with screws. They have to have these plastic things in there. And the same way with these, with the DVD drive and the floppy drive. And there still is a floppy drive in here. I'm not going to use it, of course, because what do I need it for? But as you can see here, it's all fancy schmancy stuff. And what are you going to do? Show off your computer? I mean, if you think about it, here's like the power supply wires for the motherboard. Now, they're all neatly tied together so they look fancy. Now, you know what? I'd rather have a messy computer because a power supply like this is more expensive because it takes longer wires to get it to point A to point B. I mean, all I want to do is have the power supply, and of course the power supply is not up in here in this model, but other models there are, like the one I just got done showing you, and I just want to connect it over to the DVD drive or the hard drives. I don't want to have to fancy schmancy this all together. Now this particular computer is going to be a little bit more expensive to replace, say, like the power supply, because it's all mounted underneath the computer here, and that's going to be a pain in the ass to get out if I have to do that. So right there, it's underneath that with you see the rail, it's where it's plastic, where it's on the table. That's where the entire power supply sits. A real joy to get out if I have to. That again is not a very good design. For those that repair computers, know that time is money, and you don't want to spend so much time frogging around with getting the power supply out. Now, in this row of computers here, there's a mixture of Dells and compacts. And down here on the lower shelves is two Dells running. The one of the Dells that I have is exactly the same design as the one I just got done showing you. Well, let me show you the back of these computers. And I've bought power supplies for every one of these computers that you see. So all of them have new power supplies in them now. And I'll show you why that I call this Dell Hell. Not just because of the internal of the computers, but what looks like on the outside once you get done repairing them. So you can see on this first Dell, there's a hole right where the power supply is, because I did not buy a Dell power supply. I just bought a generic power supply to go into the computer. And of course, the generic power supplies are not nearly as big as the Dells are. And although they have the screw alignments are the same, it just has a hole in. Now, for me, I don't care. I'd rather just put a power supply in. And it's the same way with all these computers that I've got. Different computers have different power supply ratings in them. And I've got a lot of them that are just, 750 watts and on up. The default, the factory power supply came with about 400 watts, and I don't think that's enough for these editing systems. Now, the only computer that I have found that's not, now it's kind of hard to see, but there's absolutely, well, I got too many wires here. Let me see here. You can see that this one actually works great, except that I had to pull out a metal piece to actually get the thing in. So I still had to modify the tower to get this power supply in. Now, like my Acer, that is an easy computer to fix. I'm not saying, I'm saying the brand wrong, and it's ASUS, but it's an easy system to fix. It wasn't a fancy power supply inside. It didn't. They didn't waste their time and my money tying up everything together. They just threw the thing in and just left it there, which was I was happy with that. So now let me show you the other computer. I know I'm kind of bouncing around here back and forth, but the other computer that I've got is absolutely the hardest one to buy a power supply for. And the one thing I found out about these power supplies and their aftermarket, and I even looked up the Dell part number for the thing, and they're just pitiful power supplies. Now, maybe they're not expensive enough to fix. I don't know. But I've heard several different issues with Dell these days, especially the new ones. They're not as nearly as good as the old ones. I don't know, because I just get the old stuff and fix them. Because they do. They just last. It's not as good as a Mac, but it stays stable. So let me get to that other computer now. I do like this one in a certain way, is the fact that it's small enough that you can actually put a monitor on the top of it. And it's also small enough that you can actually stand it upright like a tower. But the only problem that I have with this one, and this is a Omniplex 9010. And this is the one that I had a hell of a time to get the power supply to get into it. I still am having a problem. Now let me show you what's going on inside this machine. So it's the same setup. It's a fancy schmancy inside machine. I mean, when the cover's on, who sees it? So anyways, it only has one hard drive, no floppy drive, a CD, DVD burner system. It has Windows 7 on it. The only thing that was wrong with this computer was the power supply. And a lot of the times, like I've said in other videos, it's your power supply that goes first. And your hard drive. But those things I've tested. Now, the reason why I have the masking tape on the computer is because they have a safety switch, so when you open up your cover, your computer shuts off, which doesn't make any sense, which is another dumb design. Let me show you the power supply that I got to send back. Number one problem. Actually, there's a couple of problems, but my number one problem is for the fact that the power supply cables are so stinking short. The motherboard cable, which is this one right here, is only 5 inches long. Now, who in the hell can plug that into their computer? I've never seen a computer that had the motherboard power supply down at the bottom where you can just plug it in a 5-inch cable. No, it comes at least with a foot. Now, that's why, let's see if I can get a good line of it here. That's why I got this cable right here. I actually had to buy this cable. It's a foot power cable. It's a 24-pin power cable for the motherboard because I could not plug this thing in. And on top of that, bad design on this part is the fact that it's, one, too long. I wish I had my original power supply. I threw it out because we were having junk day. But I should have kept it and got the part numbers off it. But anyways, it's too late for that. Anyhow, I wish I had it so I could show you that it had a cooling fan right on the top of this thing. Now, the problem that I find with these new power supplies that I've been getting is that they've got the ventilation, let's see here, right on the back. And then here's the front of the power supply for the... So when your power supply is sitting inside your computer like that, it's sucking in all the hot air from your hard drive. What a dumb design. Who's the idiot that made that? Because the original power supply had the air just pulling in from the computer, from itself. And it was pushing it out the back of the computer. So now you're going to have another problem with your power supply dying because it's pulling in all this hot air from your hard drive because those things get really hot. Now, I think that out of all of the computers that I have ever owned from Dell, this is the absolute worst design that I ever saw. And I don't know if I can even get the thing to work. I mean, I'm going to keep trying to find a power supply that will work. But this is absolutely too long for this system. That's the other problem. And it had fancy little wire hooks right inside here. And I basically ended up just breaking them off because they weren't any good. I mean, it was getting in my way. And every time I've had to fix a Dell computer, I've had to modify the case to be able to put the parts in. So, if you're looking at fixing one of these computers, I don't know. I mean, I'm even having a hard time with it. I mean, I can place the RAM, the hard drive, you know, but the power supply I'm having a hard time with, and I can replace the CD drive. For those that like to fix computers, I have a challenge. Now, for those that do not know how to fix their computer or even care about fixing their computer, that they send it someplace, you know, a Dell is going to cost a lot more money to fix because the technician's going to have to mess around with getting the right part, and they can't just go out and buy a power supply at Best Buy or say Amazon. I mean, that's where I'm buying my power supplies is Amazon because I'm having a hard time doing that myself. All the rest of the machines that are bigger, except for this one on my left side here, this one right here, I don't know what to do with it if I have a power supply problem. Now, the power supply still works, like I said, but I just thought you folks might find it interesting why I have put this video up in the first place, but it's basically for information about what's going on with these things. And they charge you a lot more for fancy inside, and they put a lot of plastic frilly-dillies on the outside, which are a nuisance. It looks nice, but who cares? I would just want to plug something in, get to my CD drive, and I don't care if I see the CD drive. I'm probably going to end up having to take that door off so I can just have the CD drives open all the time so I can use it. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you get something from it. And like I said, I'm pro Dell, but the whole fact is that it is really hard to fix these things unless you get the right parts. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this power supply that I have is, well, I was going to say aftermarket power supply, but it's not a Dell power supply. And that's one mistake that I did not realize with the two power supplies that I've gotten, is that they were not Dell. Now, for this particular small form factor tower that I've got, it's going to take a Dell part to do it, but with a normal tower, you can fix it just fine. And replacing the power supply isn't that hard, or the RAM, or anything like that. But when they start making these squat little systems, so they're small and especially the one thing I forgot to mention also is the fact that the one that I was showing you with the small computer, it was a business system. Now all my systems that I have here are home systems, so they're going to be easier to fix than a business system. And a home system is going to cost more than a business system because the business system does not have as much power as a home system does. And I don't know. I've got some business systems from other places. I haven't really seen that much performance loss in it, except that the upgrading part is harder. So I hope you enjoyed this video, you got something out of it, and you learned something from it. I'm not trying to discourage you from buying Dell. I would still buy Dell today, but I've just heard so many issues with them. I don't know, but from what I've experienced in the past, I think I would even just try one. But that brings me to a whole nother topic. I'll quickly go through it because I have a friend that works at Cornell, and he told me some things that were very interesting. If you buy a Dell from like Walmart or Best Buy or Staples, even online stores, they're not going to be nearly as best as a factory direct computer. And that's what I have here, is even the ones I'm repairing are factory direct computers. There's a certain quality about the factory direct versus the store quality. I don't know what it is. I have never bought one from a store. Never will buy one from a store ever again. I'm going to buy stuff from the factory itself. Pay a little bit more, but you get more quality. And so, you know, there's differences in that with factory versus store. And I recommend if you do a lot of online shopping, just get your computer from online, especially at a factory, not from a store. So anyways, I hope you will look at the next video I've got. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, please subscribe and tell other people. I hope you have a great day.